want to go back to your own story, especially for young people who are tuning in around the world right now. Talk about your parents. Talk about what happened to you in China.
I was born in 1957. That's the year my father was purged as a so-called rightist.
He had been a friend of Mao Zedong?
Yeah, he's same generation, a little bit younger than Mao Zedong, and they all spent time before the new nation established. So he belongs to this early revolutionary group. And he's a poet. He studied in Paris, and right after he came back to China, he was being put in jail for 6 years. Then later joined the revolution. After the 49, he was criticized. And with about 500,000 of the intellectuals in China, they're being all put in the labor camps to call it re-education. So I grew up in these camps. During the Cultural Revolution, he really has to do very hard labors, insulted, beaten, and.
This was in the Gobi Desert.
Yeah, in the northwest, the Gobi Desert, very farthest location you can get on Chinese map.
And what was your understanding of what happened to you as a child?
As a child, you have no way to think otherwise, because everybody is in extremely difficult situation. You think it's like you standing in the rain. Everywhere is under the rain. You know, it's not. There's no exception. So he spent about 20 years cannot write words. You know, to doing a lot of. To clean the public toilet, and he often been beaten, and you know, very. Sometimes he comes home with all the ink poured from his head. You know, it's become totally black, and going through a lot of this kind of insulting.
They poured ink over his head.
Yeah. It's just there's a lot of meetings. The meetings he have to stand in front of the people, and they would say all kind of bad words about him, and he has to confess his crime, which he never committed any crime.
And what about your mother?
My mother.
She also was raped.
Yeah, she also have to struggle. She has to try and find something to feed those children, and you know, we're living underground. You know, it's like a hole you're digging down, and you know, you just the whole family living underground.
You helped your father burn your whole library, except for this one French encyclopedia?
Yeah, one day, my father have a huge collection of books, art books about Impressionist, about Renaissance, and even medieval artworks. You know, because the right guard always come to my home, have to check on those books every page by page. They would, if they find anything like nudity or abstract art, they would really start to really question my father, and you know, it's humiliating about him. So one day my father said, we have to burn all those books because those books attract so many people to come to our home. So I helped him to burn those books page by page, because there's and a lot of poetry books. He's you know, he's a literary man, has a huge collection of books. So we burned it, everything.
And the next day you were sent off to the labor camp?
Yes. Soon after, we sent to the labor camp.
So you lived in this remote area of China for how long?
I stayed till I was 18 or 19. Then after Chairman Mao's death, he has been, how do you call it, rehabilitated.
Rehabilitated?
Yeah, yeah. So we moved to Beijing.
And you went to school?
Yeah, that time university started to open again after 10 years shut down. I went into Beijing Film Institute.
And you immediately got involved with politics and freedom of expression movements there.
Yeah, at that time, this first time China have a war we call the democracy war. So we put our artworks or writings or poetry on that wall. And very soon after the war being turned down, and people get involved, some of them being put in jail. So that's the reason I decided how to leave China.
I mean, you knew right away, of course. You just come out of exile. You knew what you faced doing what you did.
Yes, it's unbelievable. You think China just after Cultural Revolution, and everybody has to think about the lessons they paid for this kind of harsh political movement. Then some young people started thinking how to make the nation or change it or to protect it from this kind of political event. Then immediately Deng Xiaoping crashed the students and the people who is trying to make China more progressive.
So you left and you came here to the United States.
Yeah, I had a chance, so I left. I come to United States. I stayed in New York about 10 years.
Lower East Side.
Yeah, I stayed Lower East Side and Brooklyn, and most time Lower East Side, 3rd Street between A and B.
You befriended Allen Ginsberg?
Yes, he is in the neighborhood, and he went to China at that time. And after he comes back, he had a poetry reading in St. Mark's Church. So I was listening to his reading, and he talked about China trip. He said he had met a poet. So I figured out that's my father because the story he's telling. So when he comes down, I said, you just met my father. So he was very surprised. Then we become friends.
So you ended up returning to China despite all you'd been through because your dad was ill in 1993.
Yeah, the time I moved out to China, I was telling my mom I will never go back. I told her, my mom was very worried when she sent me to the airport because this child has no money and knows nothing about English. I told her, don't worry, I'm going home. So she's kind of sad. She knows I will never come back to China. But after 12 years, I decided to go back, and because my father was ill.
And how did you operate? What kind of space did you have there then? And talk about your art and ultimately what you did with the Sichuan earthquake, which was, about 10 years later in 2000?
Yeah. By 1993, I went back. China had some change. People become better off. There's a road being fixed and some tall buildings in the city. But basically, it never changed the political structure. So there's no freedom of speech, no independent press. It's still very harsh on any kind of ideas or discussion. So I come up an idea to publish some underground books to document Chinese art movement. So every year we made a book. The book has no title, just black cover, gray cover, or white cover, in protesting the censorship. And those books documents the underground movement of art at that time, because this simply no any newspaper or magazines would talk about contemporary art. Then I opened the first art gallery in China. It's a non-profit place to show undergroundly about Chinese art. Then by 2000, I made I curated the art show, title is Fuck Off. It's about also about contemporary young artists' work. And but at that time I was involved in architecture. And I did a lot of architecture projects, about 60 projects, till finally I got involved with the National Stadium for Olympics. We call it a Bird Nest. And after that, I quit the architecture. And by 2005, I had a chance to learn how to use internet and started typing and writing articles. Suddenly I become very, very popular on the internet because I would write 3-4 articles a day, and next day I would see a few 100,000 articles repost. So I thought this is a really beautiful thing you can do, and with this nation has no tradition of freedom of speech, and people basically are very scared about their writing, but I openly discuss politics or anything, with my own independent view or opinion. So I got I was so popular, for a very short time. Then I got involved with Sichuan earthquake citizens investigation and.
The Sichuan earthquake, 2008.
Yeah, trying to find these 5,000 students who was vanished during this earthquake, and of course, that's related to government corruption and badly built buildings. So a lot of other effort in argument about a lot of judicial cases, because that's the biggest problem in China. So all those things brought the government to have, I would say they dislike me.
Well, you did this, you showed the images of the children. I wanted to show images from the installation you made called So Sorry from 2009, creating this installation called Remembering on the facade of the Munich Museum. Can you talk about this in Germany? That would then travel the world. I saw it at the Brooklyn Museum.
Yeah, once I got totally involved in this kind of life, a real situation, I often want to find a language to express it in the art context. So that time I do have art shows, and so I always build a work in relating to my research or my findings. And the show in Munich and also in Brooklyn, you can see some works are really relating to Sichuan earthquake.
You took the children's backpacks.
But I redesigned the backpacks. Yes, this is need a lot. This is 9,000 backpacks.
And you wrote out the words of the mother.
Yes, that's Yang Xiaowan is the girl who got killed, and her mom very touched. There's another person arguing the rights of those students, because basically China is silent about all those things. So I made a quite dramatic arguing with about 60 articles I write about Sichuan earthquake.
And the poor architecture and the poor building standards.
Yeah, we have a lot of investigations, materials, and the site visit. So we have a concrete proof, evidence about how those buildings has been collapsed.
And you wrote out the words with the backpack, what the mother said. She lived happily for 7 years in this world.
Yes, that's what her wish. She said, I don't want to get government pension. All I want is people to remember My daughter has been living happily for 7 years.
We're going to break, and when we come back, what happened to you next? What launched you back into the world outside of China after you were arrested and beaten? Ai Weiwei is our guest, the world-renowned Chinese dissident, artist, activist. Stay with us. This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. Our guest for the hour is Ai Weiwei. Yes, spending the hour with the world-renowned Chinese artist, dissident, activist. In 2008, after the massive Sichuan earthquake in China, Ai Weiwei launched a citizen investigation to collect the names of the more than 5,000 school children who died partially as a result of the highly shoddy government construction of the schools. While a citizen investigation catapulted him to international fame, it also enraged Chinese government officials. In 2009, his popular blog was shut down. A few months later, police broke into his hotel room, attacked him, punching him in the face, causing cerebral hemorrhaging. He had to have emergency brain surgery, which he later documented in his film So Sorry. In 2010, Ai Weiwei was placed under house arrest after the Chinese government demolished his studio. Then in 2011, arrested at the Beijing airport, held for 81 days without any charge. Chinese authorities seized his passport, refused to return it until 2015. So after this, your exhibition showing the children, challenging the government, what did happen to you in 2009?
I was trying to do a test as a witness for fellow investigators who is going to be sentenced. So I went to Sichuan, we stayed in a hotel. The next day the court will open. And at midnight, a few dozen police just rushed in. I think it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. They broke in the door, and it's in the dark. And we had some argument. I feel this punch right on my face, and then after that, they seized us in the hotel, so we couldn't make appear in the court till the court finished. So after that, I feel headache. So I had a show in Munich, so I have to travel to Munich. In Munich, I went to a hospital. They found out I have a hemorrhage in my, the bleeding is in my brain. So immediately we had an operation. Then if I don't have this operation, they said I will be finished. And and after that, the situation even getting worse. Police follows me all the time, and of course they trying to intimidate me. But by 2011, I was kidnapped in the airport, being put a black hook on my face and taken to a secret location. And in that location, I was kind of jailed, but it's like a military base for 81 days. Till now, nobody knows where this location is. And 2 soldiers would stand in front of me, the kind of military soldiers, about 80 centimeters away. They would look at me like this and stand still and, doesn't make any kind of move. Day and night, 24 hours a day, and even when I sleep or when I take a shower or go to toilet, they also have to stand right in front of me. And I've been going through about 50 interrogations. The crime they accuse me is subversing state power, so which is the biggest crime you can commit in China. And that's what happened.
But they gave you your passport back in 2015.
First, they told me I will be sentenced over 10 years because of my crime. And I could believe them because compared to other people, there's many people has been put in jail, also sentenced. I will be much more extreme conditions than them. So just one day suddenly they said, get out, you can leave. Yes.
And what difference did international solidarity make for you?
That moment, I don't know any kind of support because it's totally sealed. You cannot get a lawyer. Your family doesn't know where you are, and also you cannot let any information out. It's not possible. So I don't know there's a strong international outcry.
Both of your lawyers are currently in jail.
Yeah, they are still serving time in jail, 5 years and 11 years, both of them.
Even your imprisonment, your beating, you turned into an art installation.
Yes, after I come out, many people question me what it's like being in that kind of condition. So I found out language is very difficult to describe it. So I made exact same situation in a sculpture or installation, and every details fits exactly like the reality.
Didn't you photograph the police taking you?
No, nobody can photograph it. My phone is being taken away, and even police think I have some photos of the location because they couldn't believe I can make the situation so real. I told them, you're dealing with an artist. So I memorized all the details in the room.
The iPhone that you use, that you started Human Flow with, I know you're holding it right now in your hands. You're taking pictures in the studios. You take selfies with people and you on their phones so that they can have it. Mm-hmm. What has that phone meant to you?
I think it works two ways. First, for me to get first-hand information about what's going on in the world, and second, to reflect my expressions to the world. So it's like a mirror, but it works on both ways.
But you also the main theme of your work is surveillance, like the Hansel and Gretel exhibit at the Park Avenue Armory, drone surveillance. These phones are the ultimate device for surveillance.
It's true. It can examine the world, but also it has, it also examines my life, and I did many works talk about surveillance. In my household, there's about 25 cameras set up by police. And also inside my room, I later found out a box under the electricity where it's everywhere. They really think me as a very dangerous person.
Before we end the show, you are back in the United States right now, though you're not living here. Your film is opening across the United States. But I do have to ask you about President Trump and his relationship with your country, with China, and what he has meant, your concerns about him now?
Well, you have a very active president. Each day it brings surprise to the media and to people, His true relationship with China is very hard to say. He's going to visit China very soon. And, today's politics, so many things are hidden. You never know what's in his mind. And also, you start to doubt what really United States policy or principle is.
Look at North Korea.
In dealing with North Korea, or in dealing even just with Mexico, the neighbor, the beautiful neighbor we have here, they would call them criminals or rapists.
You went to the border wall.
Yeah, it's very hard to take this kind of response to see if that's a true thinking of this man, or does he really have a right judgment on the sense. So it's very difficult to really make any kind of analyzing about him.
You said yesterday at the New Yorker Festival that China likes him because he makes America look bad.
I think, yes, not only make U.S. look bad, but also anything, could bring some trouble to U.S. It would benefit China. China has been enjoyed the development after 9/11. When this world is talk about terrorist, and China had a long peaceful development for quite over 10 years. So, yeah.
Are you worried about President Trump triggering World War III?
I think the situation is quite fragile. And if we talk about the danger, yes, there's a potential dangers there.
Well, we'll leave it there. Ai Weiwei, thank you for being here. Ai Weiwei, the world-renowned Chinese artist and activist, director and producer of the new documentary Human Flow. He also has a major new exhibition opening in these next weeks in New York City, erecting security fences and cages across the boroughs to expose the rise of nationalism and the closure of borders worldwide. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.